Good evening. Thanks for watching KREM 2 News at 6. I'm Cody Proctor. Breaking news now. The Omicron variant has been discovered in Washington. And here's what we know so far. According to the Washington State Department of Health, cases were discovered in 3 counties across Washington state: Thurston, Pierce, and King County. The cases were found in 2 men and 1 woman believed to be in their 20s and 30s. The samples from these patients were collected between November 29th and December 1st and identified through PCR testing and genomic sequencing. Governor Jay Inslee released a statement following the confirmation just moments ago. He says, quote, "We knew this day was inevitable, but the good news is we have more tools at our disposal to fight the virus than at any previous point in the pandemic, and we must continue to protect ourselves and our communities." Now, in the past week, the Omicron variant has been detected in at least 12 states, now including Washington. The new variant spreads twice as fast as the Delta variant, which averages about 90,000 new cases a day. However, health officials are cautioning calm in the face of the new variant spread.
There's every reason to believe that if you get vaccinated and boosted, that you would have at least some degree of cross protection, very likely against severe disease, even against the Omicron variant.
Travel has been restricted for some countries with verified spread of the Omicron variant. The U.S. already put strict international travel rules back in place. Anyone coming back to the U.S. from a country with Omicron will be required to get a COVID test 1 day before their flights and once they arrive. And as this new variant spreads, researchers at the University of Washington are working on a way to prevent future COVID outbreaks. They're busy trying to develop a universal vaccine that would be able to recognize the entire family of coronavirus, not just COVID-19 and its newest strains.
The universal would cover more than just variants. It would cover the entire family of coronaviruses, or the entire family of beta coronaviruses.
What is highlighted up here is
researchers say the goal of this vaccine is no matter what variants develop, the human body will have the defenses necessary. Right now, the university has a vaccine in trial stages. And we will have more on the variant from the Washington State Department of Health coming up tonight on KREM 2 News at 10 and 11. For the latest on the Omicron variant in Washington, you can go over now to krem.com. Well, turning now to a look at the forecast, we had a bit of a case of whiplash for today with wet snow this morning for some of us and then sunshine in the afternoon. Let's turn it on over now to meteorologist Michelle Boss for a first look at the forecast.
And whipping back to some rain and snow for later this afternoon and early evening. Temperatures have certainly been cool enough to support a little bit of light snow across the inland northwest as we take a look at temperatures across the region, sitting just above freezing in Spokane, Deer Park, and Coeur d'Alene. Sandpoint at 34, a little bit milder down south across the Palouse, middle and upper 30s, and 40 degrees in Moses Lake, Othello, and in the 40s in Lewiston. So we did see some early morning snow, then the sun came out, and now as we're looking back at radar and satellite, we're picking up some additional rain and snow showers. We're getting snow reported at the Spokane airport, rain reported in Coeur d'Alene, and as you head southward, just plain old rain as you head down across the Palouse. So winter weather advisories still in effect for the rest of the evening across the Cascades and the Central Panhandle Mountains. So that includes Lookout, Snoqualmie, and Stevens Pass. But drier air will be moving in tonight. We're looking at much quieter weather conditions tomorrow. So here's a look at the next 12 hours. Temperatures are going to be cooling off down into the 20s. It'll be a chilly start to your Sunday, but on the plus side, we should see some sunshine. That's ahead of our next storm system coming in on Monday, which should bring us widespread light snow across the region. Lows in the 20s, highs in the 30s, mostly cloudy on Tuesday, and cold on Tuesday as well.
Anytime you concentrate animals, you run the risk, a higher risk of disease breaking out. And in this case, this is one of the bad ones.
Another one of our top stories tonight is that Scraps is temporarily closed for the next 2 weeks after a deadly outbreak of a contagious disease for dogs called Streptococcus zooepidemicus, or strep zoo. So far, it's caused at least 2 deaths in asymptomatic dogs at the shelter. Now, to be clear, pet owners can't pass strep zoo on to their dogs. It only spreads from dog to dog. Scraps gave every dog at the shelter antibiotics and is in the process of calling guardians of dogs that recently left the shelter. Until Scraps can reopen, it's asking people to help limit animal intake as much as possible. If you find a healthy stray dog, Scraps says to hold on to them for the time being until their owners can be located. Scraps plans to continue taking in stray animals when absolutely necessary. We reached out to WSU's vet school to give us a breakdown of this disease.
So for right now, the only thing that people need to watch out for is your dog becoming ill. And if your dog were suddenly to start having difficulty breathing, running a high fever, and of course with that comes lethargy, and they go off food and they stop drinking water, I mean, it's probably important to get them to a veterinarian, whether it's this disease agent or not.
Experts say the bacteria can spread through the air, through bodily secretions, and contact with infected surfaces. With the shelter closed for the next 2 weeks, staff will stay on site to help animals and answer questions. In the meantime, things are back to normal at SeaTac Airport today after an overnight fire caused a huge backup. That fire started in the airport's parking garage. SeaTac officials say crews got the fire out quickly and no one was hurt. Public transit had to be temporarily suspended service to the airport. It's back up and running on schedule this afternoon. After an hours-long manhunt, police took the parents of an accused school shooter into custody this morning in Detroit. Acting on a tip, Detroit police found James and Jennifer Crumley in a commercial building on the city's east side that houses an art studio. Police then set up a watch and arrested the pair without incident. Law enforcement say the Crumleys were evading turning themselves into police after warrants for their arrest were issued earlier this week. Police also looking into whether an accomplice aided their flight.
Yes, in fact, they were aided, and we're looking into that portion of the investigation. That part is very active right now. We're unpacking all of that information right now, but that part is active, and we know who this person is. We know that subject.
The Crumleys face 4 involuntary manslaughter charges after their son, 15-year-old Ethan Crumley, killed 4 students and wounded 7 others at Oxford High School on Tuesday. They pleaded not guilty in court this morning to the charges. Their bonds have been set at $500,000 each. The long-awaited battle in Seattle is back. Number 3 Gonzaga taking on number 8 Alabama right now. Our own Brenna Green is at the game in Seattle. We'll have highlights from the games tonight at 10, but right now, here's the 3 things you need to know about tonight's matchup.
It'll be another top 25 matchup for the Bulldogs, so let's get to our 3 keys of the game. Let's start first just with the Zags. The last 2 contests for them were point blank sloppy. The Bulldogs had 33 turnovers combined against Duke and Tarleton and only shot 10 of 40 from 3 in those 2 contests. Somehow the Zags still stayed in the game with Duke, and they were able to barely pull out a win over Tarleton. The Tarleton game was Gonzaga's 4th game in 8 days on Monday, so I hope the Zags took advantage of their 4-day break, because those turnover numbers combined with a 25% three-point shooting percentage tell me one thing: the Zags' legs were shot. Simply put, they have a 3rd straight contest with bad numbers in those 2 areas, and it'll end up like the Duke affair. Gonzaga must be smarter on offense, plain and simple, and that's going to be incredibly important because of what Alabama does on offense. The Tide's lone loss this year was to Iona, and that loss is the blueprint for what Gonzaga needs to do to win. Alabama shoots a lot of threes. It's what they're known for. Against Iona, the Crimson Tide shot 17 threes. Alabama also nearly lost to the Gales in the NCAA tournament last season. They only got off 16 threes in that contest. That's pretty astounding considering this year Alabama is averaging shooting 29 threes per game, and last year, heading into their matchup against Iona, they were averaging shooting 34 threes per game. Against Iona are the lone 2 times since Nate Oates took over at Bama that the Crimson Tide have shot less than 20 threes in a contest. Translation: you shut down the Gales' outside shooting, and it's good night. This is especially important, as I referenced earlier, that the Zags are not exactly a dominant 3-point shooting team. If they get into a contest from beyond the arc with Bama, they will lose. However, if Bama gets it going inside the arc, the answer what to do there is pretty simple as well: foul. The Crimson Tide is shooting a measly 64% from the free throw line this season. Against Iona, they shot 52% from the charity stripe. There is only 1 player on Alabama who shoots it well from that area, and that's guard Keon Ellis, who hits an impressive 91% from the free throw line. Everyone else in Bama's starting lineup is below 70%. In fact, no one outside of Ellis who plays meaningful minutes for Bama is shooting over 68% from the stripe. Meanwhile, for Gonzaga, only 2 players are shooting less than 70% from the free throw line. Those 2 players are Drew Timme at 69% and Anton Watson at 64%. If this game comes down to free throws, the Zags will win.
And that was Brenna Green, of course, reporting. Again, we'll have those highlights tonight at 10 and 11. Still looking for the perfect local holiday gift? We've got the place that you need to check out coming up tonight, still on KREM 2. We're back in a moment.